In this video, I'm about to break down developer communities. Imagine this. You open up your phone, and on your phone, you see all these different applications. You have your Uber, you have your Tinder. Sorry, no one uses Tinder, apparently, in Ghana. Your Hubtel, your banking app, whatever have you. What are some of the common things about these apps? These apps have developers. Developers who are plugging away, jamming their fingers onto the keyboard, drinking copious amounts of coffee, really trying to scaffold and build up specific applications. For a lot of people, when they think about developers, they tend to almost put these developers into this bucket of just like mythical proportions, right? Like they're developers and they have this almost God-given ability and they're basically superheroes. And don't get me wrong, developers are amazing. However, one thing that we, especially here at the Palava, want to do is to try and make it easier for people to plug into, quote unquote, the tech ecosystem. And one of the ways we actually do that is by showing people that, hey, developers are human, right? Just like you, just like me, they're human beings. And as a result, human beings also, in some cases, like to get together. We're going to go through the developer communities that some of these developers go to and some of the most active ones on Twitter, so that if you're new to the space and you're interested in being a developer, you can actually see these communities on one side. And on the other side, if you're already a developer, you're already somebody who's in the ecosystem, what we want to give you is the ability to then be able to go in and figure out which communities to join if you haven't heard of some of these. Now, before we continue, what I want you to do me a favor, smash that like button. You know you want to. That's a like button, Smash it. Anyways, let's move into it. Primarily, developer communities are really broken into roughly two types. So on one side, there's a more general developer community where you find all sorts of developers, whether it's developers who are working on the front end, which is really like the visual feel and the interactions of web applications or applications, and back end, people who are working with servers and heavy configuration stuff, and basically any developer can join those kind of communities. And then on the flip side, you have more specialized communities. It's not just like any nail goes into a piece of wood. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy. What I'm trying to say is that these communities are more specialized in the sense of they focus on a specific language, a specific framework, a specific set of skills, if that makes sense. So those are like the two primary communities. Now that you know that, let's get into it. So first we have Dev Congress. Dev Congress is a developer community and they're really active on Twitter. As you can see from just like going through their content, they have spaces, they talk with other developers. Sometimes they have spicy takes, other times they have not so spicy takes, but overall they're a pretty active community. Additionally, with Dev Congress, they also have a Slack group. Any developer can really join the Slack group. And within this Slack group, you will find jam-packed with great resources. Again, this isn't sponsored by Dev Congress. You just have to really appreciate the work that they're doing. They're on a mission to really expand capability, the developer capability of Africa by starting with Ghana first. Next, we have Google Developer Groups Accra, and they're the organizers of the DevFest. So really, Google Developer Groups is more on the latter side of the developer communities we talked about, where you have developers who come around across a specific level of specialization. And in this level of specialization, we're talking about developers that are interested in using Google technologies. There's a bigger parent Google Developer Group organization, and then you have a lot of these different micro Google Developer Groups distributed across the globe. So here in Ghana, there's actually multiple Google Developer Groups. The Google Developer Group Accra, though, is one of the more, I say, active groups on Twitter. They're actively posting, putting out content, trying to effectively build up that community. They also organize DevFest, right? So, which is, if you don't know what DevFest is a festival for developers. Kind of like your Afrochella for developers, if you know what I mean. But actually, not at all. Like Afrochella for developers, that was a joke. I hope you got it and you don't show up trying to jam and rave at DevFest, please. That was not my intention. Next up, we have Flutter Ghana, a developer community that's actually focused around the Flutter/Dart ecosystem. Flutter/Dart ecosystem is effectively this framework for constructing apps, pioneered really to make app development a bit simpler for app developers. So if you're trying to build the next best, greatest mobile application, you can actually use Flutter to build that application. Flutter Ghana is one of the more active developer communities that's out there. And as you can see from their Twitter, they put out content, they actively organize, they actively try and push the boundaries in terms of setting up thoughtful content that existing Flutter developers and aspiring new Flutter developers or developers in general can actually take and effectively use it to further their careers and further their paths. Up next, we have Meta Developer Circle, Accra. So the Meta Developers Circle, Accra is, again, one of these specialized developer communities. And they specialize in effectively helping developers further their paths when it comes to developing with Meta's tools and Meta's frameworks and what have you. So anything from, whether it's React to using different Facebook APIs, whatever have you. On Twitter, they're fairly active. They put out a lot of content. And as you can see, they care about organizing. They really care about bringing more developers into the fold. Whether they're newer developers, existing developers, they focus and really want to help these developers actually move up. So just to have a quick rundown, we've talked about Dev Congress, which has a Slack group, has a Twitter, you can join them. We've talked about the Google Developer Group, Accra. We've talked about Flutter, and now we've talked about the Meta Developer Circle ecosystem. Now, what we haven't mentioned are things around, for example, Python or data science. Like all of these different things are involved within the tech/startup ecosystem. However, I wanted to kind of put that off. I would save it for another video where we go in and we talk about the data science and AI, right? The different groups in Ghana that you can participate in and join to further that side of things. One of the things too I wanted to mention is that this is by no means an exhaustive list, right? Because communities come, they go, they're always changing. So we might have an update to this video in the future where we add in more communities. So let us know if you've missed communities that you're really passionate about, that you are a part of. Let me know in the comments. And I can guarantee you in our follow-up video, whether this needs to be a part 2, we'll get that in there and we'll make it amazing. Anyways, my name is Adon, this is the Palava. If you're interested in startups and want to see a startup doing really amazing things within agriculture in Ghana, check out this amazing video about a company called Farmaline.